Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World, and tonight I'm joined by the MP for Ipswich, Tom Hunt, and backed by popular demand, the MP for Brent North, Barry Gardiner. Look, we're going to move straight into it today. Tom, news this week, bad news, I think, with this barge debacle in Dorset, the migrant barge, people once again poking their nose into government business, trying to stop it, saying it's not safe, what have you. We've now got the ridiculous situation where the FBU are saying it's not safe. Is it their business to meddle in Home Office business?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's interesting how this is a fire workers union and actually not the fire service. I find that interesting in and of itself. Look, it's vitally important we move illegal migrants out of hotels. It costs us a fortune. It's an additional pull factor. You know, we've got to get these barges, also the tents, marquees. But fundamentally, the key thing we've got to do is detain everyone who arrives here illegally, and then deport them, and then ban them. And that's what the new illegal migration bill does. Yeah. And that's what we've got to ensure is delivered as soon as possible.
Would you like to see the barge filled up with illegal migrants and then sell into France?
Well, ultimately, these are individuals who have broken our immigration law. And if you break our immigration law, it's like breaking any other law, and I treat you as such. I'm
fairly sure that our left in the corner, Barry Gardiner, will have a different opinion on this. Over to you, Barry.
You're right, Lee. I do have a different position because, you know, it's the Health and Safety Executive as well that's saying that this may not be safe, and that's why the government's had to stop it. It's not just the FBU. But look, I was looking at the immigration figures. The number of asylum seekers in 2010 was 22,000. Last year, it was 89,000. You've had 13 years to sort this problem out, and you told us that actually Brexit was going to mean that we could take back control of our borders. Why have you failed so badly?
Well, to be fair, Barry, me and Tom has been here 3.5 years. Tom, would you like to come back on that one?
Well, we've got a situation where we have unprecedented tens of thousands of people illegally entering our country. It's got nothing to do with Brexit. Ultimately, we need a deterrent to sort that. We can't sort this problem without a deterrent. Yeah. The Labour Party have got vagaries, platitudes, but ultimately a core essence and a core desire that is essentially...
I think you, at some stage, Tom, your political opponent at the next election, he's actually been over to France, encouraging these illegal migrants to come over.
You know, it's very interesting that, yes, he has made multiple trips to Calais, where he appears to be actively encouraging it, and then also, you know, attended a pro-open borders rally outside one of the hotels being used. So, look, I mean, clearly there is a difference between myself and him, and I'd actually say there's a difference between the Conservative Party who are actually trying to solve this problem, have a plan to do so, and the Labour Party that have no plan whatsoever except to vote against every single attempt to control our borders.
Well, actually, that's not quite true, because we've got a 40% reduction in the Home Office in the processing of claims. And that's created the backlog, which is part of the problem.
The Home Office are lazy, are they, Barry?
Well, the Home Office haven't had the resources to do the work. So one of the things that the Labour Party is proposing is actually to put the resources in there to make sure that we clear that backlog so we can repatriate people. But you can't do that unless you do the work. And that's what hasn't been done.
OK, I think we're going to move on to a different subject now, Barry, because we can talk about this all day, and we're never going to agree. I mean, Tom's got pretty strong views, and Barry's got strong views on this. We're going to talk about shoplifting, because this week we saw that I think the CEO of the Co-op had a bit of a whinge about shoplifting, how the shoplifters, you know, the culprits aren't being... You know, the law's not coming out, the police are not arresting them, they're not taking them away, they're not being put in prison. Tom, you've got a big problem in Ipswich, I know that, with shoplifting.
Yeah, I have. I've got some town centre stalls that are actually being forced to lock their doors. So they're open, but the doors are locked, and you've got to ring the bell to be let in. And it's having a really negative impact on footfall. What's also interesting, you know, and I've been on a police patrol about a month ago and spoke to these businesses directly, is that there does seem to be an issue with one particular community having a disproportionate impact on this. And that is something I think you're going to be open and honest about. Tread carefully, sensitively, but tackle as well, because ultimately it's having a very negative effect on our town centre.
And prolific shoplifters, should they go to jail?
There needs to be a deterrent. Right now, we've got repeat offenders, and it is repeat offenders, and they feel like they can do it with impunity. And you know what? I'm probably right to come to that conclusion, because there isn't a deterrent at the moment. So I was pleased to see this week the policing minister saying that mandatory sentences for repeat shoplifters is something we're going to look into seriously. That could well provide a deterrent and deal with this problem.
Barry?
Yeah, look, I think it's disgraceful that people are shoplifting, and that's why Labour wants to put 13,000 more police on the streets to make sure that we get on top of the lawlessness. Because if you look at the figures, you see, Lee, under your lot, the figures went up to 382,000. That's about 80 to 100,000 more than it was under Labour. So the lack of police on the streets under the Conservatives has actually meant that there's more shoplifting. And you're right, we do need to get on top of it. We need the police to do it. And then once they've got the police, they can prosecute them and put them in jail.
That is bogus. We've got significant numbers of new police in Suffolk, and we've got new funding for police presence in the town centre. The problem is that a lot of shop owners are reporting people for doing shop theft to the police, and they're not really taking any action. And I've got some sympathy for the police, because they feel if they forward it on and they spend time forwarding it on, nothing will happen and no punishment will flow from it.
I've got a really good police force in Ashford. I'm very, very lucky, but I do get frustrated when I see the pictures on the TV. And stories like yours, Tom, where they're not going to so-called minor crimes. I think every crime's a crime, a major, whatever it is, they should come out and see the family involved. But that said, it annoys me when I see the police on these parades, when they're dancing the Macarena, when they're singing, when they're waving their flags around.
We've got to have a deterrent. I've got sympathy for a police though, because if they're going to fill in all the paperwork for somebody, a repeat shoplifter, and then the CPS and they go to the courts and nothing happens, it's not an incentive for them to do much. So we've got to look at the court system, we've got to look at the CPS, and one way or another, there needs to be a deterrent for doing this.
Barry, priorities. Have the police got the priorities right?
There are areas where they clearly haven't. One has been on the investigations of rape and the violence against women and girls. And I think it's really important that Mark Rowley, the new Metropolitan Police Chief Commissioner, has said that he wants to focus on that much more, because he accepts that, we've seen over the past decade that the conviction rate has fallen to just 2%. 2% of those that are reported rapes are actually even getting to court. So it's a real problem, and we have to get on top of that. The police really need to take it much more seriously.
Needs to concentrate on some of the sexual misconduct of some of his officers as well, Barry.
Well, and that is something I think he has done, and I welcome that, because you know very well that there has been really appalling instances of police misconduct themselves, and they have taken that on board.
OK, so final question for you, Barry. We've got 2 minutes left, a minute each. Grammar schools, yes or no?
Look, I believe parents need to have choice. It's perfectly acceptable for them to choose which school they put their children to. I wouldn't give private schools tax concessions, and that's the Labour Party's position on this, that we say that those tax concessions should be used for the benefit of all the schools.
When I worked down the pit, we had miners, not earning great deals of money, a decent wage, who were doing 7 days a week to send their kids to private school.
And that's absolutely
and that was actually, I was nearly bankrupting these families. They did that to get them a better education, but they're the people you're going to affect by these tax breaks, and they will no longer be able to go to private school.
Sorry, are you talking of grammar schools or private schools?
Private schools. You mentioned private schools.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, if you are going to allow subsidies to private education, I would rather see that money go into all of our children, because, as you rightly say, most poor children go to comprehensive schools.
I think there's a point here. It's like, what would be the impact of Labour's policy on the state sector? What it would do is a whole load of young people who are currently in the independent sector would go into the state sector, which would increase the demand. It would mean bigger class sizes in the state sector. And also a lot of children who go into the independent sector so a lot of them have actually disproportionately got special educational needs. So a lot of those kids who are currently in the independent sector would be going into a state sector and adding an extra demand. I think this is class envy, but they would have negative unintended consequences across the state school system.
Well, there you go, class envy, a bit of class envy in the room. Look, we're going to go to the yes-no quiz right now with Barry and Tom Hunt. A chance to ask Tom and Barry 5 questions. There's no wrong answers, there's no right answers. All they can answer is yes or no. If they abstain, then they may be considered a coward. That's the rules, as simple as that. White feather incoming, Barry. So I'll go to you first, Tom. Can a woman have a penis?
No.
Barry, can a woman have a penis?
Males have penis.
Is that a no?
Males have penises.
Is that a yes or a no?
It's a complicated question.
OK, so I cannot give you a score for that one, Barry. Right, number 2, Barry. Should fake profiles on social media be banned?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes. So question 3 to you, Tom. Should we have a royal family? Yes or no?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Yes, good question, good answer. 4, should lawyers who are cheating our asylum system, as we've seen over the past few weeks, be barred from practising? That's for you, Tom.
Yes.
Barry?
If they're cheating, of course they should be.
Okay. And last question, should the Fire Brigades Union stay out of the migrant crisis? Yes or no, Tom?
Yes.
Barry?
No, the Fire Brigade Union have every entitlement to pass a judgment on the migrant crisis, just like everybody else has. But the Health and Safety Executive must, or the Fire Brigade, must rule on whether something is safe.
Yeah. It is a yes or no quiz, Barry.
You said that at the beginning. I
you
forgot.
say, you say, but I'll let you get away with that, didn't I?
You did, sorry.
Look,
They're complicated questions you see here. And
well, I'm sure the public will
there we
disagree.
are.
I think the voting public will disagree. We've got Tom's answered 5, Barry's answered 4, got stuck on the old penis question. So this week's winner is Tom Hunt MP for Ipswich. Great news.